and really happy to take a turn here in this wonderful Synergos program. I've been enjoying this year together with my friends and colleagues, Roman and Ariel. Roman, who's awake early in California, and Ariel, I think, is in Michigan. So I'll just speak as briefly as I can, and then I'll turn it over to my friends here who uh, will have so much good to share. But Life Comes From It is a philanthropic circle, and also I would say a movement ecology amplifier. I never used those words in that order before, but that's how I feel about it today. And so a lot of wonderful people who work in restorative justice, transformative justice, indigenous peacemaking, and then we say land-based healing. And additionally, in the last year, we've added what we call human-centered prison reentry and welcoming people back home after incarceration. And all of those types of work that I just named, in my view and experience, share a similar spirit and frequency, and really have so much to learn and share it with each other. And so a lot of our work has been bringing people together who are in those spaces to make relationship with each other. And so Ariel and Roman have helped Life Comes From It specifically over the last couple of years do some sense making and weaving, particularly of the land-based healing work, and the way and really helping us to understand and articulate the ways in which land, including food and growing food, are part of this work and how they touch on healing and justice. So I think I'll just take a breath there, pause there, and I'll hand it over to Roman and Ariel, however you want to go forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seth. Good morning, everyone. And if my audio is not working well, please let me know.
We hear you well.
Hi, Ariel. Great. Thank you, Melissa. Wonderful. So, yes, my name's Roman Haford. It's good to be here with you all. It's such a blessing this morning to sit with another circle of folks who are convening around these root issues and convening resources for our people, for our relatives, for our community. I'm actually typically in Washington, D.C. or Piscataway territory or Appalachia at our farm called Roots to Sky Sanctuary. But today I'm in California at Mount Madonna for as part of a historic gathering of about 75 practitioners convened by the Center for Ethical Land Transition. And of course, food and food sovereignty are a big part of the conversation here. So I just want to take a moment to, give thanks this morning here at beautiful Mount Madonna Sanctuary here to just name how much is happening and how much good is coming to this field that we're talking about today. And so I guess what I'll just share quickly is that my bio was a little dated there, but I'm kind of a representative of a growing group of sort of healing justice, restorative justice, community justice, racial justice leaders, I would say, or practitioners nationwide who have been moving into this question and development of sanctuary and land, and also cultural revitalization as a core part of what our communities need, in addition to, decarceration and freedom from the prison industrial complex and economic freedom from economic scarcity and poverty. We need the ability to practice culture and to live in sanctuary, to live in um, a way and be free from the threat of violence and the constant stressors of certain environments. And that's kind of where my peers and I, group of four of us who are in the city in Washington doing different types of healing justice work in 2020, as so many others during that portal did, so many people here at Mount Madonna did. We co-founded a sanctuary outside of Washington, about 3 hours up the Potomac River, called Roots to Sky Sanctuary. It's a 125-acre piece of land at the headwaters of the Potomac River, and it's basically open and available for community members to be there and to come and to experience a culturally um, safe and recognizable, comfortable, culturally comfortable place for people of color, probably majority Black in our case, from the city, but in the mountains, in this place at this farm, where we now we raise chickens, we have horses there. One of our big projects, community projects, has been maple syrup. Our local Appalachian partners have helped us get started on a maple syrup operation, and that has been quite transformative to see and to experience and to participate in for our community members. And I'll just share quickly before maybe letting Ariel jump in here to help frame us here. But even this past 2 weeks, for example, we have a just to give you some stories of the types of things that this type of space, this type of community offers our community. Yesterday, I got a text from my dear friend Saskia, who's a single mom, and she had invited the father of her child up, and he rarely leaves the city of DC. He has a lot of social anxiety and other things. Like so many people, like being in rural places is typically not something that he would do, but he's been up to Roots to Sky once before, and they went up, just them as a family, because she is part of our farming community, and we have empowered her to lead when it comes to some of our plots of land, and she's been leading the restoration of some of our soil there with. She brought up lime, and with her son, her 5-year-old son, and her former partner, the father of her child, she's sending videos of them putting lime down and putting compost down, and talking about what Three Sisters gardens we can start in the spring. And this has been a complete transformation for her personally. She, after getting oriented with Roots to Sky over the past couple of years, being in ceremony with the community, she's transitioned from her job, which she hated. She with Roots to Sky on her resume, right? She got into a funded farming fellowship and internship program, which called Eco City Farms, which nurtured her interest and her enthusiasm for about 8 months. And then upon graduation of that program, again, with Roots to Sky as sort of a backing sanctuary community that she could point to and use as a goal project, she received the award from that fellowship program, a micro grant of about $1,500, which both helps her a little bit personally for her time, but also she is able to purchase more tools that will become community property, so to speak, at Roots to Sky. And so I really want to acknowledge Life Comes From It too, as being having provided so many, even just both large grants, but also small grants. Small grants like that can often make the biggest difference for people like Saskia and her family. I mean, her whole view of what's possible in her life has really changed because of just access to a community like this and acknowledgement of even relatively small amounts of money. So I want to put a plug. We need support to be able to provide these things for our community, these sorts of micro grants. And just another quick example I'll give is our sanctuary really tries to not be any sort of private property model as much as possible. So none of the stewards really live there permanently. And what that allows is when a culturally sensitive group comes in, it can really be their place and really is sort of table setting for one another. 2 weeks ago, we hosted for the second time the Indigenous Youth Initiatives leadership training, which is Indigenous youth from Turtle Island, Mexico, Canada, and the United States come up to Roots to Sky for a whole week and get media training, campaign training, but also ecological training. And this year was ancestral foods was part of the training week. And again, about half of these youth are from different reservations in the U.S. A lot of them are coming in again with a fair amount of sort of sensitivity and caution about being in a new place, but it's really they've come back because the space is so comfortable for them. And our dear friend Sebi, who's local Piscataway native, again, even through small micro grants, including from Life Comes From It, $7,000 here, has been able to focus full time on ancestral foods at our sister land project, which is downriver, called Necamico, where he has begun to cultivate tobacco in tobacco lands that for generations were growing native tobacco. He thinks possibly for thousands of years. The Piscataway people have been growing tobacco here, and now he's able to do that and grow that tobacco. And this year we started growing corn there, native varieties of heirloom corn. And he brought that corn freshly harvested up to this training. And we were able to not only demonstrate how to processes like nixtamalization and talk about the migration story of corn from Mesoamerica and all throughout to each of these different tribal nations represented by these youth. We're able to talk about the significance of corn to them as we demonstrated this process, soaked the corn, boiled it, husked it, and enjoyed it together, and then sent each of the youth home with some of the seeds and some of the cornmeal. One young woman raised her hand and had us all pause for a moment, and she said, you guys, her name's Deanna. She said, you guys, I just want us to take a second, and this means so much to me because our origin story for my people is that we are corn. We are the corn. And so just want us to all remember we're consuming and sharing and becoming part of my relatives here. And that was just such a beautiful moment. And then I was able to give everybody a tour of our maple syrup lines, our tap lines, and our syruping house, and invite them all back to our syruping camp this spring. So these relationships, the land-based healing movement, which Ariel's going to talk about in a moment, I think it's a lot about land. It's a lot about land justice and things like that. But the food piece is the alchemy that really binds some of these relationships and allows us to relate to each other in these important ways, these healing ways. So I'll pause there. Thank you for letting me share a little bit about Roots to Sky and my journey, and I'll pass it to you, Ariel.
Thank you so much, Roman and Seth, and everyone for allowing us to come here and speak with you. I'm going to introduce myself quickly in Anishinaabe. Buju and Dinoe Makanadog, Ariel Nindishnakaz, Edogishik Indigo Makanak Nindo Dem, Nuejang Nindon Jabao Dawa Anishinaabe Kwe. My English name is Ariel. My spirit name is Both Sides of the Sky. I'm Turtle Clan. I'm Odawa Anishinaabe. I'm enrolled at the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. And I'm living, as I said in the chat, in Anishinaabe Ake, this is part of Anishinaabe territory, is Michigan. And we're a big community. Lots of, like you might have heard of Ojibwe or Potawatomi, and I'm mostly Odawa, but some Ojibwe. And we're land, as all of us are land people and also water people. You know, what I'd like to share about today is this work that Roman and I did, that Seth spoke about, this sense-making work that we did over about a year and a half. And I put a link to it there. And we love showing these beautiful booklets that we put together in a way of storytelling and in a way of really showcasing the communities that participated. There were over 30 communities, and just to give you an idea of what that looked like, these were Black communities, brown communities, indigenous communities, multicultural communities, communities in urban area, rural areas, on reservations, serving, you know, different populations, or maybe serving the broader community. And that is a map of the people, at least we talked to, but there are so many more. And Melissa, I think it was you at the beginning who, I really heard what you said, that, you know, for all of you, your last session together was hard, that there was feelings of feeling overwhelmed at everything. And also that today you wanted to talk about how we're working together. And you know, I have been practicing Western law for 18 years, and I'm an Anishinaabe lawyer, which is kind of akin to, like, if you know the difference between Western science and indigenous science. So it's kind of like that, like star knowledge of the plants is part of being an indigenous, an Anishinaabe lawyer and peacemaking. And I only say that to say, you know, I spent many years trying to work on systems in a broader way. And then coming close into these communities, really locally into our own communities deeply. And like, it's kind of like seeding that which is emergent, you know, where we are going. And, you know, like staying close to the fire and staying close to spirit. And I guess what I'd like to say about this work that we did together, specifically around food, is something really that Seth said at the beginning, which is it's all related. You know, all of this work is related. It's creating these cultures of care. And, you know, food being very much central to that, but interwoven with healing, with agency, with liberation, with medicine. I'm sure people have spoken with you, and hopefully you have your own relationship in that way, that this, you know, all these foods are medicine. You know, and maybe that's why it's so egregious the way that things are right now, is that, you know, what are we delivering to people, you know, sacred human beings with hearts and families and lives and their own sacred path to walk. You know, may we honor that and bow to that in the way that it truly is, which is medicine and imbued with spirit and sacredness. And that's what these community leaders that we spoke with around this listening to the land talked about, you know, the ceremonies that are done around food, the prayers that are made. And these are not just indigenous communities, because, you know, of course, folks who were taken from the continent have their own ceremonies. From all over, we have our own ceremonies. You know, we have elders who say everyone is indigenous to somewhere, you know, and people in this report, and I hope everyone reads it, talked about stories of how they would relate to and connect with the land, and how to bring up the ceremonies and the songs and be in relationship in a good way. And there's so much I'd love to tell you. I'd love to tell you about stories shared from my ancestor, like my elders, through like ancestral stories about times when human beings have forgotten, like these times when they were so sick and they were falling on the food that was the medicine that would heal them, and what happened when Creator, you know, brought healing to the people. And I'd love to tell you more about our, you know, local food garden here, and how the women, I sing and I drum, how we went and made ceremony there for the food garden, and so many more stories of that. But I hope you'll look at this report. And just the last thing I wanted to say is, you know, one thing, I know that some people here, you know, have the ability to connect with funders and all of that. as Roman said, like the local communities, we need funding in these ways, and also funding for ceremony. I think sometimes funders don't really understand the centrality of ceremony to the food itself, to the land itself, to the water itself. That we believe there are songs that have to be sung, and connection, and gifts that have to be given, and there are ways that has to be done. And so anyway, we also need funding for that sort of a thing. These communities need funding for that. So anyway, meet you. That's all. Thanks for letting me share some of this with you.